What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sikora Success, or the Elevate, Dominate, Downline, whichever one. I don't know we're on today because we have a non-Sikora agent. We have a lender, a friend of ours. We've done a lot of deals together, both on the residential and the commercial side of things. And, I watch what Jeff posts and I see like such a successful background, and it happened at such a young age. And so many agents come into my world, and so many lenders and so many salespeople in general. And they're like, what do I do? How do I get started? And I figured, Jeff, hop on, man. Let's rap about what you did. What got you into it? I know you have an athletic background, right? From the Del Barton.
Yeah, but I want to go back first. So like, even though I'm not a Sikora success agent, I'm like a secret Sikora success agent, So yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. It's nice always looking back at like what you've accomplished. I think a lot of people fail to acknowledge their accomplishments, whether it's early on or recent. We always look for like what's next, but I think the pandemic's taught me to really look back on what I've achieved at an early age, sub 25, sub 30, now 35, so sub 35, right? And I think it comes down to, like you said, the sports background of being consistent, right? And having a routine. And I want also everyone to realize, when I started 2007, 2008, it's a lot different than the world is today in 2022. People are like, what'd you do on social media back then? I'm like, well, nothing. I just had Facebook for my friends, like no one back then. If you remember when social media first came out, it was like, don't post anything work related on social media, God forbid. And then LinkedIn comes out. And then that's when it's like, okay, only post your business stuff to LinkedIn, but no one was on LinkedIn,
Dude, I remember too, actually back then. Well, first, I remember when you actually had to go to college in order to get a Facebook. I didn't go to college, so I always felt so left out because I didn't have that email address. And they opened it up maybe a year later or something like that. And I was able to get on Facebook in 2005. But I remember too, like people would actually, where you have your bio now on Facebook, they would put, do not friend request me if it's in regards to business. Like people were like, no. And you look back at it, there's a totally different world back then. I remember the BlackBerry Pearls, all that stuff before the iPhones.
I found mine the other day. I think I actually have some sitting somewhere.
I was just going to say, I saw your post in regards to that. I feel like you've saved all of them. Yeah.
I have every single phone I ever had, literally from 2007. And because a lot of them have good content in them, like text messages and all that stuff, and everyone ever like fact checked me, I'd go back and show people, right? I don't even know what's in those things at this point. But look, I think the biggest thing, especially when you're starting out, you have to have a game plan, but you also have to just go do. And I think fear, insecurity, lack of motivation, lack of leadership, lack of guidance, right? Stalls people. It keeps them as the horse, sitting for the race, but no one ever like tells the horse that the gate's open, right? They unlatch the gate, but they don't tell the horse, hey, just run, and a lot of people in middle level inspirational management, right? Kind of tell people just go out and do it, right? Now, the other thing is what we've seen today is a lot of people lack that true mentor or coach, right? Which also can get them there. I personally, I never had, or I could tell you, like, because of the age difference, me being so young, everyone else being 25 years or so older than me, I never had a mentor or coach, right? I went out there and learned on my own, right? And when I first started, especially like on the road, like when I got cut from my college football team, I had already tried starting to do mortgages, even though I like was still playing college football and kind of going to school, right? I would go from my mom's house in Branchburg, New Jersey. We know where Branchburg is, right? And if you ever pull up a map, start in Branchburg, New Jersey. I would go 202 to 287 all the way to the Randolph, like Route 10 area, right? Circle around Morristown, Randolph, because Weichert, the headquarters of Weichert was on Route 10, right? Yep. So I'd go there. Then I would take that all the way to 80, shoot right to the Bronx, hit the Bronx. And for those of you that don't know, the Bronx is a pretty freaking big area. There's like 10 different zip codes in the Bronx, right? And then drive all the way back to my mom's house. That lasted, probably.
That's a nice big loop.
It's a big loop, But again, so like I had just gotten cut from my college football team. I just finished school. I had nothing else to do, I planned myself to do a fifth year in football. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Like my plans are changed. And all right, might as well just get in the car and try and go figure out how to make money, right? And this is now, let's just call it the summer of 2008, right? So like the only thing in Morris County at this time were short sales and FHA 203K loans, which I did, right? So I focused on 203K loans. Then you go to the Bronx, and it's a whole different world, whole different animal. Interest rates are at like 7% or something like that. And I just said, you know what? I'm looking back, guys. My outlook looking back at it. Like, I'm blessed because everywhere I went, everyone was negative, down and out. The business is crumbling. If I got one deal, it was a home run, right?
Yeah.
So for me, timing wise, like, yeah, it was as hard as I've ever worked. I worked harder from 2008 to like half of 2009 than I did in 20 years of playing competitive sports, right? Because it wasn't like, hey, go throw this football. It was like, get dressed, look the part. You don't know anybody. The market just crashed. Interest rates at 7%. Everyone's got bad credit. No one qualifies. Go to 2 different states and deal with people and, you know, millions and millions of dollars of loans, right? So I had, as much as I had working against me, I also had equally everything working for me. I didn't know what it was like to make 30, 40, 50, $60,000 a month, right? So it was like, all right, my living expenses are $600 a month rent, and I bought a Denali to have $1,000 a month car payment. And like the money I was getting, $2,000 a month, covered that. So if I didn't bring a deal in and close it, I couldn't eat that month, right? Like I had a credit card, but you know how it is when you first start out. So I think, you know, when people start out, like you gotta go and cast a wide net. You have to focus on relationships, and you have to deal with people that you probably don't want to deal with, so you can get the business and get the experience, right? Like if in a perfect world, you can't go out there and say, all right, I like this person, I want to do business with them, when you need business, because you got to take a deal from wherever it comes from.
Right.
And that's what I think, you know, really attributed to my early success is going out there consistently 7 days a week. Doesn't matter the weather, doesn't matter the holiday time of year. I was available. I answered my phone every single time my phone rang, probably on the first or second ring, because I associated the phone ringing from a number I didn't know to money. It wasn't anybody else at the time. Nobody had my cell phone number, right? So I think like those little strategies help people early on to develop a name for themselves and not burn bridges.
You know, it's funny. I was always that, like, I love the quick response, being available within reason. I mean, if it's like 9:30 at night, I go to sleep early, but I wake up pretty early. And I feel like even now, even looking at this, we're what, 12 years down the road, 13 years down the road, you're still one of the quickest, like, dude, Jeff, let's go. You want to do this? You want to do that? Boom, boom, boom. It's like such a lightning fast response. And I feel like that speed to lead kind of mentality goes a very long way in this business. And one thing that, like you mentioned, is I don't know if when you went into it, this is something I always looked at when I first started selling real estate, is I cared about the transactions, not the volume tied to the transaction. Like I wanted to sell 24 homes, and I didn't really care about the price point. And I find a lot of agents now and lenders too, they're so worried about the volume per transaction. And I think that if you really build the muscle and you get into the transactional count and you're more focused on that, like if you go back on my Zillow, I sold 2008, 2009, 115 Van Horn in Jersey City for $30,000. It's probably worth $450 now. I sold it for $30,000 as a short sale, and the deal sucked. And I made like $200 on it or something. Like it was, yeah, exactly what Neil just said. Singles and doubles add up. But if you get to the point where your body and your like everything can handle that 24 transactions, you know, per year, then 40 transactions per year is not that difficult. And you start to elevate the price point or elevate the quality of deal that you're doing from there, it becomes a hell of a lot easier.
So I also want to say, I think it's relative to the person, right? So like when I first went out there, it was like, hey, I could do this. I know I could do this, right? I didn't say I want to close X amount of dollars. I didn't want to say I want to make X amount of money. I just said, heck, I know I could do this. I'm going to go meet as many people as possible. I'm going to answer my phone 24/7. I'm going to give people the truth, and I'm going to do business, right?
Right.
And then it was like, all right, now I want to be number one. And what I could tell you is, and look, it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? I'm saying this as humbly as possible. Being number one isn't for everyone, right? And you become, can I curse on this thing or no? Is it like in the friends?
I don't fucking care.
So I was and I think you know me well enough. Like, look, I'll be the biggest gentleman in the world. I'll give you the shirt off my back. I'll give you something without even asking for it, right? But if I want to be number one, I'm going to do everything possible to be number one. And I need my support team and staff and referrals. So like, again, the appraisers and everybody else, the title companies, to do their job. And they need to replicate me, right? That's the only way I can be number one, right? So it made me be a prick to people. And I was a prick to people because they weren't accountable and they weren't doing their job, right? And plus, as you know, in the heat of the market, like banks were worried about going out of business. They were dealing with the feds, right? They were dealing with investors pulling, you know, their warehouse lines, right? Appraisers were kind of coming or going. Dodd-Frank was coming into play. So by the time 2016 came, when I was number one at multiple companies year over year, kicking people's ass, this and that, I got away from being number one. I don't want to be number one anymore. I didn't want to be number one at that point because I didn't like the person I had to become to be number one, right?
Yeah.
So if you go out and say, hey, I want to sell 300 homes this year, you're going to put so much pressure on yourself that you might actually cost yourself business because you're a prick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a fine line between like your career. You can't look at your career as a 1-year thing or a 3-year thing. When I say a career, like I look at it as a 10-year, 25-year thing. And as you evolve in your career, you hope that you've casted a wide enough net that you then set your filters where you can then pick and choose who you do business with because you enjoy doing business with them. You know how each other works and you have a mutual respect and love for each other to do more business. So when I left New York in 2013, purposely, I walked away from the $30 million a year business that I did. I left, walked away from it, told them to go somewhere else, right? And then I did the same exact thing in New Jersey by year 2. Peace of mind, better quality of life, better state regulations, right? Now I'm home in my home state. But it comes down to like, what do you want for your business? And at what point, what matters most to you? Is it quality of life? Is it referral sources? You got to think about those things when factoring in. But I'm a big believer that so my first 18 months in the business, right? So all 2008 and June of 2009, still to this day, pay me like an annuity. And I think that's unheard of. 10, 12 years later, I don't have to call any of my past clients from that time frame. They're calling me, they're following up with me. Now, obviously it's mutual, right? We have relationships, but I could live off the rest of that business for the rest of my life because of what I did from them back 10, 12 years ago. So if you set the proper foundation and kick ass and take names the first, call it 36 months in your business, in your market, that should last a lifetime if you do it the right way.
I think what's important too about what you were doing, and I feel like a lot of salespeople don't look at it this way, is you were truly solving problems. I think what got my year with you,
it was the devil's tickets I gave you because I was a relationship guy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, really.
Yeah, no, it's 1,000%, man. Devil's tickets. I'm still waiting to go back to a Devils game. No, that's why you're on here right now. I'm waiting for more Devils tickets.
Gotcha.
No, but like you were openly saying, Brett, give me the shit deal. Give me the loan nobody can close. I want that. I want to turn it around insanely fast for you. And I think it got to the point where I gave you so many shit clients that you're like, hey, Brett, maybe give me an easier one, nowadays. But
I also like to bust balls too. So that's also my personality, right?
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. But I thought that was such a great way to approach it because you're like, hey, give me the shit. And to this day, I mean, you're not doing anything on the residential side. Like you have connections in that world, but you let the,
I have a deal that I struck silently with Cardinal Financial. So I'm back in that space in the management realm. I'm more on like the guidance strategy side. Like obviously people call me for loans. I can structure them. I pass them on. I handle everything, but my loan officers handle like the crux of it, like internally. Actually, the whole support system does, which is great for me because I'm doing what I want to do. But that's also about positioning on your side, right? So like you already had prior relationships. I like you as a person. I consider you a friend, right? So why am I going to try and sit here and compete with these guys you already have a relationship with? I'm not trying to take from them. But if they have something they can't do, let me know. Let's continue to form our relationship and let me show you what I could do. So if and when you need that, you know me as the guy to do that for you, right?
Yeah.
That's how I show value. And also, I've been so fortunate enough because of my relationships that I've earned, right? Getting a deal has never been the issue. I have too much deals and I'm always a one-man show, right? So why do I want to come on, take on your 50, 60, 70 referrals, underservice you when you could find somebody better?
Right.
I'm not going to put myself in a position to fail, especially with someone I care about.
Yeah. Well, and then too, from there, I feel like it segued those relationships. You didn't just develop it with the consumer, but you also developed it with banks and lenders and private money and everything like that, where, I've certainly had unique scenarios on the investment flipping side of things or the buy and hold, wherever it may be, where I'm like, Jeff, I need X amount of dollars and I need it in 14 days and I need it at this rate and I need this. And here's the whole picture. And you're just like, all right, I got you. Here's what you got to do. Here you got to do boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna connect you with this person. Let's hop on a conference call. And then before you know it, we have a plan. We have, an LOI signed and we're off to our term sheet, whatever you want to call it, but we're off to the races. And just so everybody knows, that's on not only the commercial side of things with like your clean commercial, but that's also on the commercial side of the investor flip world. The woman who owns a condo in Manhattan that has a lot of equity that she can't tap because she hasn't filed tax returns. Like the interesting stuff like that. I feel like that's where you really go deep on the problem solving as well. And right now, more than ever, I'm not as much in the investment game as I used to be, but I'd venture to say there's a lot of wannabe flippers that are like really having cash flow issues with the way supplies went, with the way that contractors are all backed up. And I see them now that I'm in the burbs. I drive past these projects. I said to Kara, there's one in Watchung. We were driving past it yesterday. I said, that's been sitting with Tyvek siding on it, Tyvek wrap, for probably 2 years now.
Yeah.
Like and also too, realtors listening, when you see that, like call me. I'm happy to go have a conversation with that person too. I know that person's in trouble. The signs are there that there's something wrong with that deal. They probably need money, and you can definitely help them on that. And then they also probably need the right people.
You know what I find too? So, and look, I get it from all angles. I've been on all sides of the coin, right? Yeah, like put it like this. My goal in today's world in my life is I want to get to know as fast as possible, right? Not to yes as fast as possible, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people in this business try and say, yeah, Brett, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, we can do this. Yeah, how many times do you say, yeah, Brett, we can do it. No problems. We're good. We're good. We're good. I do the opposite, right? I'm asking the questions up front, and it costs me business because people don't like giving all the information up front. But I'm like, you're not paying me. I'm valuing my time. I'm valuing your time. If I can't do it, I want to figure out why I can't do it now so I can figure out potentially how we can do it, right? Like, what are we dealing with? So on a deal like you just gave, yeah, a lot of my deals that I've been doing privately are like the bailout deals. Hey, got jammed up. Hey, ran over budget. Hey, COVID. Hey, I have 10 projects, whatever the case might be, right? But like, I probably have a solution for it one way or another. So if it's like me having a respectful gentleman's conversation with your lender who you owe $900,000 to, and you haven't paid them in 12 months, me going and speaking their language and getting them to see the bigger picture on why they should cut your principal balance down, I could do that. But as soon as you cut me out, or like you go to the lender, or, you know, you're not being forthcoming, or I give you a solution and you don't listen, I lose complete interest, right? Because it's like, hey, I don't have anything to lose here. You have something to lose here, right? Yeah. And sometimes the worst thing that happens is, and I get it, sometimes people do nothing, and there's always that point of no return. So once you hit that point of no return in life and business and, you know, your construction project, there is no return, right? Yeah. So like, how do you salvage what's left? How do you maintain your reputation, your credit, your project, whatever? Maybe you get out and break even, but you didn't lose anything and you didn't hurt anybody, you know? Right. Where I see the biggest opening right now, not so much on the fix and flip market per se, but like these commercial refinances. So like if you own like a mixed use property with a commercial storefront, you know, no one knows how to do them. I'm literally in the process of saving a $2.325 million deal in Staten Island, where they went to their friend who's a broker, and the guy sat on the loan for 3 months, can't do it. In 3 minutes, I know the attorney very well. In 3 minutes, I said, how much of a loan amount is the client applying for from this guy? Oh, he 1.65. I go, just so you know, this deal is not getting done 1.65. I can close this in 2 weeks at 1.4. I go, it doesn't cash flow at 1.625 million. It cash flows at 1.4 million. Took the deal. Same day, got a term sheet from one of my bridge lenders, 9.5%. The guy's not going to lose his $230,000 deposit because now they're past contract date, right? So we saved him $230,000. Yes, he's paying 9.5%. We're closing the deal in 2 weeks. It's closing on like, I think like the 18th or 19th, whatever it is. But like in 3 minutes, I was able to give them a solution, right? So they went from, I'm losing almost $250,000 to, okay, you know what? I'll pay $12,000 a month in interest for 3 months.
And guess what, too? What's interesting about that is the person that told them they can do the loan, that other loan amount at 1.625 or whatever, and is causing them all of this headache and has their deposit money and risk and everything, there's like no liability.
And not only that, he's almost got the deal hostage, right? You know, he said, oh, we're working on it. You know what the consumer thinks? Oh, they're still working on it. We're almost there. I'm like, you're 4 months in, you know? Yeah. So I think, again, like, so why did I leave the residential world for 3 years and get back into it recently? because I was still doing all the work for my clients behind the scenes and other people were making all the money for it, right? So like when people call me up and say, hey, I just did X, Y, and Z, I'm like, oh, that's the dumbest thing possible. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
I got back into it because people were getting the wrong advice, going to the wrong people, the wrong lenders, the wrong online gurus, and they were putting themselves in what could be harm's way down the road. And I didn't want to keep going through that, But back to the main focus of the conversation is like, back to the ground and pound days. And I did my video for the cookbook that I featured you on the back of, where your quote was, coming out of this pandemic now more than ever, people are either going into the hermit crab world or they're going into the I need socializing world, right? So if you're a people person, you need to get out there and meet more people, shake more hands, kiss more babies so you can get more business. If you're not doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice because you can spend as much money as you want on advertising and social media campaigns and all this stuff, right? They still want to shake your hand because you're dealing with a large transaction, a large investment. So unless you have that network and referral source, now is more crucial than ever. Do it safe, go one-on-one, go to Starbucks, go meet at a park and stand outside if you're that concerned. You still need to meet, shake hands, and socialize with people because you still need that human element because that's what real estate's about. And mortgage lending is that human element. Zoom and virtual only goes so far. You need to leave that lasting impression. And I said last week on another interview I was on, I said, look, I don't follow up with people. Guilty of it. But again, I've always had enough deals coming in where I didn't sit there and say, I hope I have another deal coming, right?
Yep.
I'll follow up with you. Hey, man, I haven't heard from you in a while, but I'm not going to be like, hey, you got any deals for me? That's just not me. But with that being said, my belief is if I instill the right confidence in you the first time we speak or the first time you referred to me, you shouldn't go anywhere else. And if you go somewhere else, then that's my fault for not having the ability to capture you and show you what I'm all about in that 2, 3, 4, 5, 50, 2-hour phone call that we have.
Yep. No, 100%. And then also too, I should point out, like you've put 2 books out on the market too. I think the first one was the Mortgage Playbook for Millennials, right? Yep. Where strongly focused towards the millennial crowd. And
I wrote it more as like a fun intro. So I wrote it because all the market was like bashing millennials. If you remember back in 2017, millennials are stupid. They have too much debt. They live at home with their parents. They're never going to make anything. They don't want to work. Well, clearly the millennials proved everybody wrong, right? We fueled this recent surge. And then second, I wanted to write it where it's like you having a conversation with me. So if and when you ever meet me or follow me, you'd be able to say like, oh, I reread your book and I hear like you're reading it to me. So I wrote it in like I self-published it. I wrote it in a very like informal way just to kind of break the ice for someone to pick up and read and be like, oh, I didn't know I needed an appraiser. What's an appraiser? So it's kind of like, an entry into the mortgage and real estate world, as well as give my insight as to what I thought was going to be important moving forward.
And then the second one's a Realtor Cookbook, which
correct
ties directly into my world, which is training and coaching realtors.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to, I wrote this again from a strategy concept of, look, it's meant to be like a coffee table book, right? You're sitting at home on a Sunday night, your son's crawling up and down your lap, he finally goes to sleep, you're sitting there, you let your hair down and you're like, man, I want to really develop business. And then like this book glows right in front of you and you're like, all right, flip to page 87. Hey, you should really think about doing a weekly StreamYard video because that's a great way to get into your network, and then you could add your name and your brand in there and you can potentially bring on somebody else that you can get into their network with, right? And you're like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Let me do this. So like it's 57 tips that help anybody in the world that does sales or works for themselves generate business, right? From a very cost-effective standpoint. I think the most expensive thing on there is like $50 that you have to invest in. Everything else is like $10, $15, $20, like cool, fun ways to get people out of the anxiety-ridden, world they live in and into society, which is where the business is. And if you do it, I'm pretty sure you can actually have success on doing it. But if you told me you tried every single one of those 57 tips and you didn't grow your business, I'm going to flat out call you a liar. If you do it, I guarantee you have deals from people that you don't even, probably know as of today.
Yeah. And I think that kind of goes back to I think it was before we actually went live when we were talking about the consistency aspect of it. That's the problem. That's the difference. And you talk about how, you didn't really have a mentor. I feel like in the beginning, I was at Gotham Realty. Like it was like a mom and pop, not a sales, like we're just kind of figuring this shit out.
Winging it.
But we were taking massive action and then adjusting based on the results that were happening within that. So if you found that after 1 year shooting up 202 or 206 to get out to 80 that way or to come down Route 10, not a single deal came from that, then you might start going out to 22 to Brooklyn or something, or to the.
No, what I did was I casted my net and I stopped going out that way. One, because the average loan size there was like 200,000. The average loan size in the Bronx was like 370,000. So I could do one deal in the Bronx. I had to do 2 deals out in Jersey. And again, I still have relationships with all these people that are still out there still to this day, right? Because they saw me every day for literally 6 months straight. But I'm like, all right, I'm all in on New York. I want to take on New York City. My mindset was, if you do it here, like, you could do it anywhere. And I proved that, not only in the Bronx market with multiple businesses, but Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Long Island, everywhere else, Manhattan, Harlem, and Long Island City. My office was in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn before Bed-Stuy even came back after Biggie. You know what I'm saying? I was in Long Island City in Astoria. People were like, what's that? And I say that because my business has always been about me creating relationships and having fun, right? If you don't have fun, you probably shouldn't be doing the business. And as you know, our business applies so much pressure, right? That you need to have an outlet, you need to have fun. And I was never really that big of a drinker. I had fun with people drinking, obviously, but I was also running around New York City and I had, 20 to 50 loans in my pipeline at any given time. And the next day when I woke up, I'd have 50 to 100 new phone calls, right?
Yep.
So I was like, you know what? Let me teach myself how to navigate myself around New York City. Let me learn about demographics, the market, like who's coming in, who's going. And then that's how I considered myself to be a local market expert, is because I dabbled in all of those interworkings of, the New York City metro area market, which gave me more insight on like what's coming, what's going, and then where the future investment might be.
Yeah. No, and I totally can relate to that too. Like because I was Hoboken, Jersey City based for however many years. It was a long time. And then we've grown so much throughout the burbs, the shore, central Jersey. You really do get to the point where you have such a pulse on what's happening in each market that I can say, just based on my team meeting, this area is really hot right now. It's cooking.
Sure. And
then it died right in here. So if you're thinking about selling here to go here, it's going to start to get a little tricky for the consumer. So
yeah, and that's, again, it's like, you have different pockets of people and you take all the information and you crunch it down to like the important facts that allow you to do more business and then make more money. That's really what it boils down to.
Definitely. I didn't realize the time, dude. I got to wrap up because I got to be into another call right after this. But dude, any finishing thoughts? I mean, how would somebody get in touch with you? Obviously, your books are available on Amazon, right? Definitely go check those out.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, at Jeff VanNote SR Senior on Instagram. The biggest thing I want to leave people with, get in touch with me. The biggest thing I want to leave people with is like, don't give up too soon. And if you're struggling, you need to make that investment in yourself. Hire a coach, hire a mentor, hire me for a consultation, buy my book, try everything out before you exhaust all your resources. But if you're not investing in yourself financially, you might as well quit now. And if you're not investing in your health, you might as well quit now, because stress kills you and being broke kills you. But you can't be both of those. So that's all I want to leave everybody with. I appreciate you having me on, thinking about me.
Dude, pleasure, man. Thank you so much for being this part of it.
Give your little guy a hug and tell your wife, congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.